Hello everyone, today we're taking a look at the HawkEye Little Pilot. And I normally wouldn't review this, but the way they have it titled or descripted kind of feels like false advertising. They say on here that it is for DJI, digital receiver. Well, it kind of is, but it isn't what you think it is. You can't plug this thing in and share what you see through the DJI digital system on it. Just doesn't do that. It comes with this simple cable, which allows you to pump this signal into the DJI goggles. We'll go ahead and take a look at it, but I think that's probably the most important part, is that nobody gets confused by the title or the description of this product. We don't just have the Little Pilot out, which is this product here. We've got the Top Sky FPV watch, we've got the Eachine Moneagle, and then we've got the old standard, which I've been known to use for a very long time for setup purposes on the bench, the EV800Ds, which this is the only one of the three that you can actually mount to your face. It's got a secondary piece that clips on here, and then it has a head strap so you can actually wear this, and it separates. Ooh, it's awful dirty. It separates for bench purposes or for sharing FPV, and I think that's what a lot of these things probably are being used for, is primarily set up for a new quad and sharing FPV when you're out in the field, or if you're like me, if you have a new neighbor you're trying to draw into the hobby. So the Little Pilot that I have here, this is the 3.5-inch version, and that's kind of why I have them all laid out here. You can see the different sizes. Now there's a feature set that's also different. This does not have a DVR, which it kind of alludes to. Let's see, that slot right there is not a DVR. If you put a card in there, you will have to take it apart to get the card back out, which I did. This also does not have a DVR, but the Moneagle does have a DVR, so does the EV800Ds. These two also have diversity, obviously, with the two antennas. I don't recall if this is true diversity or just antenna diversity. I think it's just antenna diversity, but correct me down in the comment section if I'm wrong on that. So feature set can be a little bit different. Also, the HawkEye Little Pilot has this really tiny mount that you could use. I haven't seen one this small on like camera tripods or anything, but it is really small. Let me get a measurement of that for you. So that hole appears to be a 2.5 millimeters. So for whatever mounting purposes, you can use that as a diameter measurement. This is also a bit quirky to turn on and off, and we'll get to that here in a little bit. But let's first take a look outside. I'm flying a quad around, and I've done a little video recording of the flight, and it gives you an idea of what it looks like, a camera's interpretation. I'm just pointing another cell phone camera at the screen and we're flying it around. Of course, this is in a box. It's a cloudy day, so really getting sunlight on the screen isn't that big a deal, but I don't think this screen is nearly as shiny or reflective as like the Eachine Moneagle, but a sunshade might be needed, which it does not come with. Also have some pictures here because, as I said, I did insert an SD card into that slot. That is not for an SD card, it's just a slot. And so those of you that have that knowledge and experience for those small electronic components, you might be interested in some of those pictures. Hopefully they're high resolution enough to where you might be able to read a chip, or if you wanted to look at some of the finer detail of the inner workings. Nothing too surprising there. It does use a ribbon cable or a flat cable to attach the screen to the rest of the components. It charges via USB. This is the micro USB. This is not USB-C. And it does have that battery in there that you've already seen in the pictures. And I found that it could run for quite a while. I ran it for at least 50 minutes consistently one day, and it didn't go down. Also, if you need to go back, you can see that there's some information across the top of the screen in that flight recording that will give you some information about it. First, let's take a look. As you can kind of see from my lights, the Moneagle is very reflective. See if I got these about the same. There we go. I think the Moneagle is more reflective than the HawkEye, but it's probably has a lot to do with the fact that it's got a very glossy finish to the outside screen protection, and this one is just a little bit less. I'd say the Top Sky watch is as reflective as the Moneagle, and of course this has a little bit of a sunshade, so it has an advantage over all of them when it comes to getting sun or lights into the screen. Let's turn this on and take a look at some of the quirkiness of turning it off and on. So as you can see, we get that little screen and it comes up. We get some battery information across the top. We've got, I think that's a runtime on there, and then we see that the channel we're on. I always suggest going to a Raceband 8 for doing your VTX stuff. That gets you up above Wi-Fi and possibly some other interference. So if you're having video reception issues, try Raceband 8. So you change channels, band, and frequency with the plus and minus buttons here on the side. And we have a reset button there. If it were to get locked up, you could take a straightened out paper clip or something else and put it down in there to hard recycle the power. Say the power just won't go off for some reason. So if you short press the power button here on the side, we'll get the menu that comes up, and then we can hit the button again to cycle through brightness, contrast. Format is set to auto, gamma, whatever CO means. OSD on, you can turn the OSD off. Language is English. Currently you cycle through other things. I'm not going to do that for risk of changing it to a language I cannot read. Go back down, and then we have reset and exit. Now if you want to change one of these settings, you use the plus button up here or the minus button down here. And that's really it. That's all this thing is. This button up here doesn't seem to do anything. Oh, and searching, auto search. If you long press this button up top, the plus button, it does eventually go into auto searching, as you can see there on the screen. So it's going to search through everything. It won't find anything, but that's how the function works. I did find with me flying on Raceband 8, it did lock on to that channel. That can vary depending upon your quad, your VTX, your environment as well. I always suggest knowing what channel you're on rather than relying on auto search, especially if you're having video reception problems. Now, turning it off. This is something I struggle with, so I'm going to make a fool of myself for your benefit here a little bit. So I'm going to long press the power button. It's a really long press. If we get that, it goes back to that little screen. Now you can still maybe see it through there a little bit. It says little pilot, and it's a very dim screen. It's like it's gone to a low power mode. Press the power button again. Now I think for the first time maybe in all my uses, I turned it off without turning it back on. So that was one of the things I struggled with, was trying to turn it off and ending up turning it back on. So it goes to a real low power mode. You may not have been able to see it in the recording, but kind of in a real low power mode, you could see where it had that loading screen, the little pilot loading screen, and then you short press the power button again to turn it off. What else does it come in the box? Well, not much. We get this, which tells us a little bit about it, but really not much. And 4 stickers. And for the diehards that really want to know every little bit of information, let me unplug this cable. Let's weigh this. So it looks like we've got about 118 grams. The FPV watch, 42 grams, 42 and a quarter grams. The Ishin Mon Eagle with the caps but no antennas. This one's going to be pretty heavy. 215 grams. I won't weigh the EV800Ds just because, well, they're kind of goggles and a little bit outside this review purpose of comparing these different products. So what's left? Well, this is the 3.5-inch version, which comes in at about $53. I think that might be a little bit of a sale price, or it might be going back on sale shortly. If you select the 2.5-inch version, which would be closer to this, it's $47. The Ishin Mon Eagle, which is currently listed at $69.99. Again, prices varies. I'll put links if you want to look at these products down in the video description. I did find this at US seller websites. I think Pyrodrone and RDQ, Race Day Quads, they both have this one as well. I'm not certain about these two. I don't think either one is carrying this, but they might have an FPV watch. It could come under a different brand, and of course the price is different as well. The FPV watch, this or other varieties, is going to come in right around $49 to $50 depending upon your source. So that's kind of a price roundup, with these two coming in at a very similar price. This has the mounting advantage of actually having a wristband on it. This is they're going to run about the same amount of time, although don't quote me on that. That's just my suspicion from having used these two things. You do have more antenna options, I think, with a standard SMA, which this has on it. But again, it's got this quirky little mount down here as well. It's kind of an odd power cycle situation. This screen is nicer and brighter, but of course it does have that glossiness to the screen, so in bright sun it could be an issue. And this guy's just kind of an old standard. I brought it out because I'm still using it. I thought I would transition over to this, but because this sits up and kind of protects itself from me bonking it with stuff, I've found that I just put this on the side of my desk and I still continue to use it. I've put this one back in a box. So that's a roundup of these particular products. Keep in mind that this does not allow you to share digital FPV from the DJI system. That's the biggest point of this video. Hopefully I've kept it brief enough to where a few people got that message right at the very beginning. This is essentially an analog receiver for DJI goggles when you plug it in using the cable, just like any other analog video receiver. Let me know what you think. Do you have any of these products and what do you think of them? Are you transitioning to something like this for your bench purposes, for build, for setup purposes? Do you carry one of these around in your bag to share with others so they can become more familiar with the hobby and maybe a fan of FPV? And if you have any other comments, questions, suggestions, or otherwise, please let me know in the section down below. I appreciate your time and thanks for watching.